October 2020 marked a pivotal moment in Nigeria's civic landscape as young persons across the country mobilized under the hashtag #EndSARS banner to protest police brutality and also demand systemic reform. 5 years on, the movement remains a reference point in discussions about youth participation, governance, and institutional responsibility. Now, this anniversary offers an opportunity to reflect on the progress made, the challenges that persist, and the evolving relationship between citizens and the state. It also invites a broader conversation about how youth engagement continues to shape Nigeria's democratic journey. Now, joining me to discuss this at the moment is Hassan Taiwo-Soweto, is the spokesperson for the Youth Rights Campaign. Thank you for your time. It's great to have you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good evening.
All right, good evening. Let me first start by asking, and this, of course, is slightly off, the conversation right now. Your take on what happened yesterday as regards the protest. As, a young person, a civil rights activist yourself, what panned out yesterday with the hashtag Free Nnamdi Kanu Now protest? For you, would you say that the message, the intended message was clear?
Well, I think the intended message was clear. The President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration made it clear yesterday that the Nigerian people do not have any right to freedom of assembly, and that any attempt to protest for anything at all will be visited, with naked aggression. That is what happened yesterday. It was a shame, what happened, and I think it's important to say that regardless of what anybody feels about the message of the protest yesterday, you may not even agree, for instance, with the Free Nnamdi Kanu protest. But any time the right to protest is flagrantly assaulted in the way we saw it yesterday, it is actually a threat to anyone. It means that anybody tomorrow, whether you're a student or an ordinary person, you could also be visited with the same kind of brutality.
All right, and that would make me put this side by side with protests that we've had in the past. I mean, the closest being end bad governance, and then, of course, the conversation right now is the EndSARS, right? Part of the issues that keep coming up has to do with civic engagement, particularly by security authorities. There have been conversations around how this can be better improved. But number one, my question is, are there takeaways, and do we seem to be making progress in spite of conversations being made, reforms being pushed, and of course what we eventually see when protest, peaceful protest that is, comes up?
There is no progress. There is no progress. Whatever engagement that the police was trying to develop with civil society groups, with Nigeria's youth, before now, everything has broken down. What we have now is a naked dictatorship. And that's a warning to everyone. It means that next time there will be an eruption of protests in this country, people will not expect anything less from the police or from the army.
Well, so why do you think, you said there's no progress, so why do you think that is? Do you think that maybe, just maybe, the perception that some individuals use these protests to actually push an agenda as against the collective good? Why do you think progress in terms of civic engagement hasn't been made in the past?
It is because the government is not sincere. The reality is that any exploitative and oppressive government ordinarily does not want protest, does not like protest. Because a protest, means a vote of no confidence, either on the policy of that government or the government itself entirely. So any oppressive government usually suspects protest, does not like protest to happen. So and that is why whatever engagement has happened in the past has failed. I mean, don't forget that we had the Ember governance protest last year, and we were always having engagement with the Commissioner of Police, at that time in Lagos State, and also the IGP in Abuja, over how protesters should conduct themselves and also what we expected from the police. But despite all of those engagements, and despite our own commitment to ensure that we kept things peaceful, we were brutally assaulted on October 20 last year I was beaten blue-black by the same police officers that I used to sit with in the office of the CEP to discuss how we would plan protests. They didn't even care that I was the one that they knew. And what does that tell
So,
me?
sorry, just to get that clearly, you said that last year, sorry, just to get that out there, you said last year you are beating blue-black, you know, doing the same, and by police officers that you knew and you've even had sit-downs with.
It was even orchestrated. The beating was supervised by a commissioner of police who often would write letters to me anytime we're planning protests to say, Soweto, we need to discuss the conduct of the protests and everything. Which was why we had to sue the police. We won the case in court. We won a land bank judgment, you know, in June this year from the Federal High Court in Lagos State. The Federal High Court asked the police to pay us 10 million naira. We are still expecting that money to be paid.
That money has not been paid yet.
It hasn't been paid because the police institution is a very lawless institution. The current IGP is a very lawless IGP. He's someone who ought to have been sacked, you know, from that position if actually you have a government that actually cares about anything. But you know very clearly that you know, the worst IGP, the IGP that attacks people's rights, is actually the one that is loved the most by the government. Because they're actually doing the job that they're being asked to do.
All right. Soweto, I mean, you're a young Nigerian who, of course, you've been at the front lines of protest, and you've been pretty much vocal over the years. And some Nigerians are beginning to ask, are protests really effective still? Are they even relevant? Some even see it as being biased or a political tool by some aggrieved persons to push an agenda. What is your reaction to these insinuations?
Well, there will be, if you are not aggrieved, there will be no protest. Protest is about, you know, feeling of anger about something, a rejection of something that is happening, a feeling of injustice. So I don't understand all these points about the protest having an agenda. If there is no agenda, why do you have a protest? An agenda is about our interest. You know, what do we think that...
but many say that more often than not, the interest isn't even collective. It's usually personal.
I mean, I've never been part of such a protest, and you should be careful because many of those who make these allegations are actually spineless individuals who are just masking their, you know, support for the government of the day, you know, under such moralistic speeches. This is not the first time I've been having protests in Nigeria. In fact, the president of this country, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, will himself tell you of how many protests he allegedly participated in against the military, so that we should not be having these kind of discussions anymore about whether there's an agenda or not. What is very clear is that people do not come out to protest if the government has not created the room for it. For instance, why do you increase fuel price and then you expect people should not protest? Why do you impose tax on poor people and you expect people not to protest? Why do you allow the police to brutalize Nigerians and you expect people not to protest? If there is no cause for protest, if the government does not provide a reason for protest, then there will be no protest, and whoever wants to use protest to pursue any narrow interest will not see any people to respond to them. So if the government does not want agenda protest or protest of self-interest, they should stop oppressing and exploiting people, and that would do that. That would be trickier.
All right, so thank you so much. We'll go on a quick break. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I cannot allow the Nigerian state to continue to dictate the agenda of change for us. That is not the debate we should be having. You only have conversation with somebody who listens. The Nigerian state is deaf.
The Nigerian state is deaf.
Deaf, yeah. They do not listen. The state is deaf. For 65 years, the state has established a pattern of relationship with the Nigerian people. It is a relationship of aggression, of exploitation, and then of repression. And that relationship was handed over by the colonial state before the Nigerian state. So it's a pattern of aggression that continues up till now. To then begin to discuss 65 years after about having further engagement with such a state is to continue to delude ourselves that anything can come out of it. What we should be talking about now is how to end it once and for all. And that's where I want to address the question you asked earlier about whether or not protest works. Yes, that Nigeria still exists today, that we still have a nation is only because Nigerian people continue to resist. So things could have been worse than it is now without some of those actions that we have had over the decades. However, we cannot continue to just protest every day, because it's obvious that the ruling elite does not get tired at making our life miserable, at imposing ever more vicious and the poor politics. That is why I think we need to go from protest to power. We need a revolution to end this capitalist system and enthrone a socialist Nigeria. That is the way forward.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Hassan Taiwo-Soweto. Of course, joining the conversation right now is Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, is the Commissioner of Police, retired, and Provost, Police Public Relations School, Abuja. Thank you for your time, Dr. Ojukwu. Dr. Ojukwu, I mean, just let's get straight to it. When it comes to police engagement with peaceful protesters, what we've seen over time is that it's always rocky. At the end of the day, there are complaints. Why is that? Even though there have been conversations around this and promise of reforms, but we still come back to the same issues. So, I mean, from a very practical angle side, you've been with the force. Why is this usually the case?
Okay, now the police has a duty to maintain law and order, and to promote and protect people's human rights, and to provide enable environment to go about their lawful businesses. Now, people have a right to protest, but there are limits, there are limitations attached to that human right. The law even allows the law enforcement officers, police in particular, and others, to restrict the exercise of human rights if such an exercise of human rights would jeopardize public safety, public order, and peace. And so when the police goes about their businesses as allowed by the law, and they encounter Nigerians who are exercising their rights to protest, and they have a perception of intelligence that such a protest may degenerate to anarchy, disorder, destruction of lives and property, the police are duty bound at any time to make every effort to stop that process from escalating.
Okay, because I'm going to come in here, sir, because we're really racing for time. You use the word perception, but most times these people are usually harmless. I'd like some clips to come up there. The press too is even not spared in many of this harassment. Just yesterday, members of our crew too were harassed by this armed men who, of course, just came to our team there that was just covering the event, and the harassment did happen. So it still goes back to my question as to what type of orientation, you know, the police have when situations like this come up. Can you please, in 30 seconds, because we really need to go, you said perception. I would like you to state in bullet points some of those scenarios, specific scenarios that would warrant sometimes the use of live ammunition.
Okay, the law allows police to use live ammunition if those who are protesting are violent and are killing human beings, and they have to assess the situation, whether it warrants use of firearms.
So people holding placards, for instance, does that make them harmful?
Say again?
Those holding placards and just, you know, with banners and all of that, does that constitute a threat to others?
Police does not go about shooting those carrying placards.
And tear gassing them.
They have power under the law. If the carrying placards becomes disorderly and is tending to riot that may disrupt peace, police have a duty in this law, in this country, to dispatch such rioters. The law allows that. As regards your men who are harassed, it's unfortunate. If you make a report about harassment, the police will deal with those officers if they went outside their scope of duty.
All right, Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, I'm afraid we really need to go now, but I can assure you that we'll definitely bring you on to have this particular conversation when it comes to civic engagement, the security forces, and, you know, peaceful protesters. But we appreciate your time on the program. Commissioner of Police, retired, and Provost of the Police Public Relations School, Abuja. Once again, thank you for your time.